Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Join me over coffee as we delve into topics that affect our everyday lives. And today I'm in conversation with Jill McFadden Bartley, and we're going to be talking about the journey of grief. Most of us have experienced a loss at some point in our life, whether it's a spouse, a parent, or even a child, a job, or even just the loss of a life that you thought you was going to have. And we all go through a period of grief in exploring how that loss has affected our lives. And so today we have a lot to talk about with Jill, and it's on a different note than some of my other shows, but the one thing that I appreciate about Jill is that she brings so much life into a conversation. So it may be a heavy conversation, but it's also going to be uplifting in many ways. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you.
So, one of the things I just wanted to just start off with, we're going to be talking about some strategies. We're going to be talking about grief and what it is, and we're going to be talking about some strategies that help people get through that grieving process.
Yeah, there definitely are some things that can help with grief, and unfortunately, in our culture, we don't handle grief well. We don't talk a lot about grief. Someone passes away, a lot of times people don't even know anymore. They used to get the paper, they would look at that to see who had died, and a lot of people don't even know who has died anymore. Years ago, we would see people, particularly in different cultures, who would dress in black for a year. And so you knew when you saw that person that they were grieving. It was, it gave you a cue that they were in grief. So people are uncomfortable with talking about death, and so that doesn't help the grieving process for sure.
Well, I do know, and I have learned over the years, that particularly if it's a child, parents like to hear their child's name coming from someone else with good memories. And as some of the cards that I have sent you, I have always included funny memories about that person, because it brings that person to life where you are holding them in your heart and they're not forgotten.
That's right, and I do know a number of people who have lost their children, including my sister, and I have a very good friend that I've walked the journey of grief with, and they like to hear their child's name. And my friend has said to me, well, sometimes I may tear up, I may cry, but don't let that discourage you, because I want to talk about Jordan. I want to talk for my sister. I want to talk about Jeffrey. They want to hear the name, because although they are moving forward in their grief, you don't move on. They are apart, A-P-A-R-T, all one word, from us, but they are part of us, right? We take them with us, for sure.
Well, the other thing that I have also learned just from my own experience, my own loss and my own experience with grief, is that people grieve differently. There isn't this standard set of this is, stage 1 or stage 5 or stage 6, but grief is personal to each and every one of us, and one of the things that concerned me at the time, the loss of my parents, was that my family around us all grieved differently, and there wasn't an acceptance of that, because there's the assumption that you all grieve the same. And then it just kind of, there was a few cracks developed, because how I grieved was very different from how other people grieved.
And it can depend on the relationship that you had with the person. It can depend on regrets that you may have. It can depend on your personality. I have 2 girls, and one is an emoter, like her mother, and the other one is like her dad, very stoic. Yeah. And I remember one time in a difficult situation with someone that they loved that was dying. One was crying, and the other one was kind of angry and not very good with her sibling. And I was saying to her, you need to have some patience with, your sister is upset. And she said to me, Mom, I'm upset also. Just because I'm not crying and emoting the same way, I'm also upset. And that was a very good reminder for me that people do deal with it differently. And some people that are very stoic may really need to release that. Yeah. And one of the object lessons that I do in the Grief Share course that I help to facilitate, we have a pop can, and I shake the pop can and I go near somebody and I say, oh, what would happen if I open this? And they're like, oh, and that is like anger, right? Yeah. If you shake, you're shaken up, it's like anger. And if you open the tab, the anger comes spewing out and can be very messy. And so sometimes people who appear to be very stoic and handling grief well are not really, it comes out in other ways.
And that can be concerning, because sometimes it comes out as anger.
Yes, it can come out as anger. It can come out in isolating. It can come out in anxiety, lots of different things. When I was grieving, there were 7 years that I had a lot of loss, one thing after another, what we call pancake grief. And I thought that I was doing okay. I was a bit like a hamster on a wheel. I was trying to work and trying to do my caregiving at home, and I thought I was doing okay. And my boss said to me, maybe like we have an EAP, an employee assistance program, maybe you want to go talk to somebody. So I think I'm good. And she says, I don't know if you, my job I was doing okay in my job, but she could see other things. And she said, yeah, you might want to go talk to somebody.
And you're receptive to that, where some people would back away from it when it's all done out of caring. Mm-hmm. and support.
And I think I was, because it was after my mother passed away, and my mother had been ill, and she was not really able to communicate anymore. She was ready to die. We have a strong faith, and so I felt like I knew where she was going. And she was 94. She was a wonderful mother. I got all these things to be thankful for. And so, I really felt like I shouldn't be crying or, grieving her loss kind of thing. And I think that was really, as I talked to the counselor, that's kind of what came out. She goes, well, she was still your mom. Yeah. She was still your mom. It's still a huge loss. Yeah. I felt like I had lost her a few years before her death, but the death that's the final. Yeah. I was still busy, visiting her, feeding her, advocating for her in long-term care with my sister, who was awesome as well. So I think I had some realization that there was something that on the journey that I wasn't maybe just doing as well as I could be.
And when I reflect on my journey, I think my journey was very different in the sense of the sense of not of loss of my mom, but at the same time I talk to her all the time, and I wear pieces of jewelry that or scarves that were my mother's, and so I hold her close to me in that respect, because I'm not ready to actually let go completely, and but emotionally I think I have, but because I wear the jewelry and because I wear the scarves and that sort of thing, that holds me close to her all the time. And of course, in my closet, I have a framed picture of my mother and of me. And so I see it every day. It's not like, but you can't pick up the phone.
No, you can't do that. But people do talk a lot, like in the groups that I'm part of. They say, is it okay that I still talk to the person, or seek their advice? And I remember you wearing the jewelry, and I do that as well. I have some pieces from my mom, and they are things that maybe I might not necessarily choose myself, but you can celebrate in so many ways. And yes, you want to take them with you wherever you go. You recognize, and you're not denying that they have passed away, that they've died, but you're doing things to celebrate them and to keep them, and that might look different. It might be a charity. My father was very supportive of the Salvation Army. Jeffrey, my nephew, loved all kinds of charities and was always doing something. And he loved celebrations, and so those are ways that we can celebrate him. And I have a garden full of different plants and things that people gave me when people died, and a lot of them I was able to transplant out. Some people gave me gift certificates for the nursery, and so I was able to buy a couple of plants. And my forsythia just bloomed. It's been in there for a couple of years and has not had any flowers. And that was planted when my sister-in-law died of COVID. And that was a particularly difficult death, and she would love that. So she's in my garden.
Well, I had a friend many, many years ago, and really it was, she passed away in her 40s. One of the things that I had found this two-piece little lapel pin, and actually broken two, and it had best friends written on it. I gave her one half, and I had the other half. And we had always talked about when we got older, we would do all this, we would travel the world together. So I have taken this little pin and I have put it in my travel case.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
That wherever I go, Marnie is still with me.
Nice. Because
that was something that we were going to do. And so she had that half and I had this half, and it's been 30, 35 years since she's passed away. And so miss her terribly, but at the same time, just that little token of always carrying her with me whenever I traveled.
And those are healthy things. I mean, I think that it takes a long time, or can take a long time. It is a journey. It takes a journey to be able to get to that point. It's not something that you just all of a sudden do. You go through the tears, you go through a lot of the sadness. You go through the roughness of the initial journey, and then eventually you can move forward. And I think part of that moving forward is having discussions with people. How did you handle it? Being able to, the nice part about grief groups is that you feel free to be able to talk with other people about your grief journey and how you're feeling and how you maybe got ambushed by grief. Maybe a song came on that reminds you of that person, or something special that you did together. So there are lots of times, even years later, there are times where you get ambushed by grief and tears come to you and they take you by surprise. So yeah, it is a journey, and I think that's what people need to remember. Whether you're the friend walking with somebody that's going through the journey, or whether you're going through it yourself.
Tell me more about this Grief Share that you're engaged with.
So the Grief Share program that I'm involved with, there are a number of grief programs out there, and I'll mention a couple of them, but the one that I'm involved in is a faith-based program. It's a 13-week program, which seems like a long time, but so is a grief journey, right? And it's kind of a little bit at a time. So we meet together. It's what we call a canned program. So it's a video. There is a workbook, and after the video, we have a discussion about the video. Then there is some heart work or homework, whatever, that you can work on during the week if you are able to, or if you wish to. We encourage that, because the more that you put into it, the more you get out of it. And then when you come back the next week, we take up and talk about what the heart work was, and then go through the same thing, watch another video on another topic. We have snacks and coffee, and of course that's part of it, right? Over coffee. And so it's people really appreciate that, because a lot of people find it very difficult to be heard. People just, it's an awkward topic. It's an awkward topic, and often people, once the funeral's over, and give a couple weeks, and people think, okay, you should be done with your grief, and they move on, because life does move on, and people aren't done. They're not done processing the grief.
No, because it's the little things that happen either on a day-to-day, or the big celebrations that come around the birthdays, the anniversaries, the Christmas, the Easter, the Thanksgiving. All of those celebration times are a trigger, and that could go on for years.
Yes, because there's an empty chair at the table. Someone or someones are missing, and they're missing physically. Maybe there's something on the table that's missing. Maybe your grandmother always made the dessert, a special dessert, and sometimes that's taken over by someone else in the family as maybe a way of grieving themselves. They want that special food item that everybody liked. But definitely maybe the person, Jeffrey, loved Christmas. So Christmas is tough. It's really tough for my sister and my brother-in-law, and for the rest of us, because he loved giving gifts and just, loved that. And holidays are very tough, and a lot of people don't really realize that, and you're supposed to be happy at holidays, and sometimes you just don't feel happy. So we talk about that, and there is a separate piece of Grief Share that talks about surviving the holidays, and it's take a nap before you go out to a celebration, before you accept an invitation. Say, I want to come, and I'm planning on coming. But that day, if I'm ambushed by grief or something, I'm not feeling up to it, I may have to call you and say, I hope I can't come. I hope you'll understand. Driving yourself, so that if it becomes too much, that you can drive yourself home. You maybe don't need to stay as long as some of the other people might stay. So all of these are sometimes different things that can help you to get through the holiday times or the difficult times.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that be upfront with your grief. Tell other people about what's happening to you, and don't just isolate and leave other people out of the grieving process. So what I'm feeling here is that when Marnie passed away many years ago, I didn't know what to do for her family. I mean, there was a huge hours difference. We didn't live in the same communities anymore. And I always struggled with, like, what do I say and what do I do and how do I handle this? And but I'm 3 hours away from her, so it's not like I can pop into the family, and didn't know what to do.
Well, you're a good note writer. I know that because I've got notes from you, and I also am a note writer. So sending a note at different times of the year. I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about whoever the person is that they have lost. If they are close, taking food, not just at the time that the people pass away, but maybe at another time as well. Staying for the cup of coffee is the name of a book, and whether that's after the funeral or whether it's just, having coffee or wine. My daughter and I, or my sister and I had a glass of wine the other day together, just spending time, checking in. And it doesn't need to be a lot of chat. Sometimes just let them do the lead. And I think one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking there is being prepared for the questions, even the dumb questions, because people will say, well, how are you? Because people don't mean to, they're doing the best that they can. It's awkward. They don't know, what to ask, what to say. And I think that's why a lot of people pull back and don't talk or walk away. They see somebody and they walk away. But we talk about writing a grief letter, and it's thinking about how you will reply if someone asks you, how you are. It doesn't need to be that long. I mean, the grief letter can be longer. You can write out some of your other feelings, but maybe kind of rehearsing, even if you go out to a party or a holiday time, thinking about what you will say, capitalized, if someone asks you how you are. Being open and honest, but not just saying fine.
Well, I'm thinking of that because I had a situation where I said, how are you? Fine. and that was almost like, okay, that's the end of the discussion, like that. And then there's other times where they say, I'm fine. And so fine takes on different connotations in the way that you say it and the way you reply. So the person who is saying fine needs the most help.
Yeah, yes, or they've been asked that a lot of times today, and it's like, oh my goodness. But, being able to say, well, it's getting better, it's getting a little better, or today's not a good day, or this week is difficult because, being able to have a kind of an answer ready can be helpful for the griever, and can be helpful in the conversation too, right? Because otherwise it does kind of stop, and
Well, I read an article around grief and how a mother and a daughter were both grieving over the loss of husband, father, and the daughter was able to move on a little faster than the mother, but the daughter was always saying, you know, this is enough time. Like, you've grieved long enough. Like, you should be moving on. You should be doing this and you should be doing that. But not only that, this was a woman who had years with a partner. And this is a daughter who grew up and was able to create another life outside of the home, and making judgments about, well, you shouldn't be doing that anymore. You should be moving on. And this was, and because the mother was older, it was harder for her to let go of the loss of her longtime spouse. And the routines, like it's almost like a relocation trauma, because now you're having to navigate life differently. Whereas the daughter was able to grieve and navigate her own life without the relocation trauma.
Well, you and I have been married longer than we were on our own, right? And so that could be the mother. And there are secondary losses as well, right? You've lost the person, but then you've lost what that person does. So, you know, with the loss of a spouse, I would miss my tax man who does the taxes. I would miss the guy who makes me coffee in the morning. I would, you know, I would miss all the things that he does in our relationship, as he would miss having his laundry done and getting a meal on the table. So we kind of we do our things that are as part of the relationship, and you miss that. You miss who takes out the garbage. You miss all of those things. So there are so many losses, or just so many things, like if there's a plumbing problem and that person always looked after it, or maybe they were the person who looked after the car. So there are just a lot of secondary losses, which often those are things that the daughter or the child would not recognize.
I think what I'm gaining from this is two things. People grieve differently, different stages, different time frames. And the other thing I'm getting from this is that we can't be judging other people's grief as to what is okay, what's not okay, how you handle it, how you don't handle it. And if we just allow people, so really it's just about walking beside them, as you mentioned, listening, but not giving them a lot of advice. Just letting them say what they need to say, and no, I don't want that pop can. Anyway, I'm getting the high sign from our wonderful camera crew, who is saying it's time's up. And so this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for talking about grief. That's what we need to do more in our world.
We do.
We need to be able to talk about it.
It's part of the life cycle.
It is.
It is. So join me next time over coffee.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
What would the world be without a bone marrow burger? Or if you couldn't track down the best taco truck surfers? Or never knew Worcestershire sauces and tikka masala could tick all your boxes? What if you'd missed the fried chicken with kimchi and had never melted firsthand for the pierogi grilled cheese?
It's so good.
Where would you go and what would you try if you didn't get the best tips from the tippiest guy?
You're welcome.
All new Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Friday night at 9 on Food Network.
This is a perfectly